As many of you know, I initially regarded the prospective Memo leak as a steam and slab a nothing burger, before reversing my position ultimately a few days before the reveal. For one perfectly valid reason I will now divulge. Look, if the memo were of legitimately dubious origin, the Dems would decry it once, point out the inconsistencies, and move on with their motherfucking lives. Trump did this earlier this week with the Stormy Daniels accusations, and wouldn't you know it, they turned out to be right bubbling bullshit. But after one look at the DNC's frenzied, frantic, full-court fucking press approach to denying the validity preemptively of a memo that has not been released yet, not to mention haphazardly rebranding it the, quote, Republican memo, because apparently the artist formerly known as the memo wouldn't have been ass-fuckingly obvious enough of a fucking rebranding effort. Point being, bitch tits, you tipped every hand in 5 counties, and we saw through you like a Reynolds Wrap G-string. The logic, incidentally, was fairly simple. If you've been following along with the Razor Fist home game, you may be interested to learn how I formulate my highly scientific predictions. You ready? You turgid? Ugh, please God, don't be. So, you know how we kept hearing, Hillary's way ahead in the polls, my God, 12 points ahead, hashtag dropout Donald. Yeah, you remember how that was a heap and help and a horse shit? Here's how you should have known, precious. Because a campaign that's 12 points ahead, in fact, doesn't have to leak a pussy tape from Access Hollywood, which is exactly what Hillary Clinton did, albeit through intermediaries. Look, she was behind, and she knew it. I don't know if she had internal polls, apart from the one fused to her fucking sphincter, that is. I don't know if her hand puppet handmaidens were giving Gammy a much-needed reality check, but first-place campaigns don't have to drop a thermonuclear bombshell like that bullshit. Backfired like a bitch, though, didn't it? Point being that really, folks, it's all about basic observational skills, and if you possess any whatsoever, you almost immediately discern the shitstorm to come. So what in the fuck actually is this memo shit exactly? Well, you know how the Obama administration was wiretapping Trump's turds? We established that in a latter-day rant. Well, in order to do that, you have to fill out and approve what's known as a FISA request, after which it must be presented before a judge who then determines the validity of said request based on the available evidence. Keep that term available evidence lodged way the fuck back in the goddamn gray matter for me, would you, pal? Bitchin'. Pending the judge's approval, it is thereafter permissible to determine the precise coloration and curvature of my crank if they do so fucking wish, as any and all wiretap calls after that point will be copacetic. So what evidence was brought before the black robe in question, you might ask? Well, only our good friend, the Steele dossier, which is basically Marussia with a manila envelope. All sounds fairly routine and generic, right? Shit we've all heard before. Well, here's where it gets 5-alarm fucked. The Steele dossier has the unbridled efficacy of an $11 bill. It in fact turns out Christopher Steele was leaking information to the press, the news reports for which were then used as primary sources for the Steele dossier. The pissant used himself as a primary source. But surprisingly, that's not even the point here. You see, whether you believe every word or not a drop of ink on the document in question, the motherfucker it's named after, British MI6 operative Christopher Steele, it turns out a Department of Justice employee, Obama's Justice Department, mind you, lest we level any accusations of bias, met with Steele in mid-2016 and described him as, quote, desperate that Donald Trump not be elected president. Oh, did I mention the FBI paid Christopher Steele to fabricate the living shit out of his sources? Because that's a fun little fucking factoid. Beginning to understand why Comey lied under oath. So whether you believe the Steele dossier is a golden ticket or a golden shower, it should have been thrown out to begin with because the man that printed it was more tainted than Michigan tap water. Instead, again, according to the memo, the judge considered the Steele dossier to be the primary determining factor in approving the wiretap on the Trumpmeister, a fact Andrew McCabe outright confirmed here again in the memo. But this is a rare case where I can't blame the judge in all actuality, because all of that information was actually left out of the FISA request without his knowledge, despite being, again folks, eminently available evidence that at least one DOJ official had already seen fit to file a complaint about being excised. Watergate? Bitch, that's small potatoes. That was all about political vendettas and secret recordings. These motherfuckers subverted the very foundation of both the republic and the court system to stop one man from getting elected. Watergate's a fucking wave pool by comparison. And at the damage control department doing their best stiff approximation of a shrug and repeating the word negligible until it ceases to mean anything in fucking English, that means you, Comey. Your rehearsed indifference routine would be a fuck of a lot more convincing if you hadn't spent the last 48 fucking hours clawing your corrupt puffed asses up the walls about how leaking this memo would rend the very fabric of democracy. But sure, I can see why Comey, NPR, MSNBC, and every correct the record bot on butt-fucking Twitter is describing the contents as say it all together now, because Christ knows the media will. Negligible, not to mention a man named as complicit in misrepresenting the Steele dossier, John McCain. Well, you wizened old polyp on the puckered asshole democracy, may I be the first to formally declare that I hope your doctors can find a cure for brain cancer, and soon, so you can see the inside of a fucking prison cell for your role in this abject farce. But here I am overreacting. After all, unless you consider a dubious dossier funded by the FBI with the assist from Clinton's opposition research firm Fusion GPS having its political motivations deliberately excised from the fucking FISA request and willfully repressed thereafter by a concerted FBI and DOJ effort that continues to this day, might I add, a dossier that has every dirty fucking fingerprint from Hillary to Huma Abedin to John Jimmy Arms McCain in the margins, all with the okay from Barack, I read about it in the paper like the rest of you, Obama, to sway the opinion of a judge wholly oblivious to the duplicity in question so they can spy on a prospective presidential candidate they all swore up, down, and sideways was never fucking spied on to qualify as corruption of any description? Then yeah, it's pretty goddamn negligible. However, if unlike NPR, your nads aren't in a vice courtesy of the Clinton cabal, the knowledge that the FBI and DOJ operating under Obama's orders knowingly concealed relevant information to push through an unjustified wiretap of a U.S. citizen, even a great big orange one you happen to disagree with on occasion, gives you the faintest cause for fucking concern, you may wish to join me just now in erecting the sincerest of dueling middle fingers. Fuck you, Barack Obama. Let's hope salt and pepper hair looks good in prison orange. And double fuck Jeff Sessions. No department's perfect. Maybe slick, but we can inch ever closer to that ideal by hanging your hacky ass. I'm Razor Fist. God. Fucking speed.